Hi, I'm Brian and welcome to Munros for Dogs. On this trip, we all set out to summit two Munros, Beinn and Beinn Teallach. As you can see in the video, the car park hasn't got a lot of space. It's right off the main road, and if you're not there early, you're more than likely not going to get a space. I believe there is some sort of parking area further down the road, but there's not great verges on the other side of the road, so if you're going to walk back, it's going to be a bit more treacherous with the traffic coming up and down. So if you're going to do them, get there as early as you can. The walk in from the car park is really nice. You walk through this kind of woody forest area. Eventually it does move into kind of more desolate as the trees have been all cut down. Not as scenic as if you're walking through the woods, but the terrain is really good jeep track, which is always nice to have, especially at the start and the end of your walk. We were going to head up Beinn first, which I would recommend doing. There is a little cairn further along that indicates which way to go. Now, we didn't go this way because it took you through the woods and the terrain didn't look brilliant. The way we went actually ended up being a lot better. All we did was simply push past the cairn and continue following the jeep track all the way down to the field that you can see in the video. The ascent for the first Munro goes on and on and on for a bit. Some bog areas, but there's nothing challenging for your dogs themselves. Although just be aware there are a lot of false summits on this, so don't lose hope, just keep going and you will get to the top. There isn't much of a track heading towards the first Munro. It is pretty intermittent. Sometimes there's a track, sometimes there's not. That's just part and parcel with Munroing. So just be prepared, it is a bit more cross country. If you are someone who does rely on tracks to get you to the top of the summit, I'd definitely look at a bit more navigation for this one, especially in bad conditions. For us it was quite clear as we started, but once we got further up, the mist descended and it's much harder to kind of find your way when there's no reference points. the way to the first summit, there is one obstacle for you and your dogs, and that is a deer fence that runs for quite a distance. There is a gate, and you will come across it if you stay to the left of the shoulder. Although there is a bit of high ground before it, so if you are struggling, you can get up on that, and you'll be able to see where the actual gate is. But the fence, there's no way you're going to cross it. Apparently there is a stile somewhere along it, but I'm not exactly sure where it is. The ascent does seem to go on and on and on for quite a while, but eventually you do reach a kind of rocky area. No major problems for your dogs, and there was no problems for us either. As you're heading up, you will come across this big cairn. You might be tempted to think this is a summit, especially if it's like us, very cloudy and misty, but unfortunately it's not. It's just an indicator. Once you're here, you're not that far away from the top. I believe it's about 800 meters away. After the cairn, you're walking up quite a wide ridge. Terrain's actually quite decent, although where the snow line is here, the drop is not far past that. You can't see it too well in the mist, but trust me, it's there. And then finally you reach your first summit. As you can see, the cairn isn't as big as the previous one, so if it is a misty day, you could easily get the summits mixed up. On a clear day you can get some amazing views. The Munros themselves aren't overly spectacular, but the views are. After the first summit, you follow the shoulder down for a little bit, and then you eventually have the long slog down into the Teallach, in between the two Munros, for you only to then come back up again. The ascent for Beinn Teallach looks worse than it actually is, especially as you're heading down towards it. It looks like you're going to have another big slog up a steep side. It's not actually as bad as it looks. We found this ascent much more enjoyable, as it's not just an ever-ending slog up a slope. The terrain does change every so often, from a bit steep to then shallows out, grassy and rocky, and it just makes it a better experience when you've got something different underfoot as you're going along, rather than the same kind of heathery terrain that you get on the first slope. There is much more of a track on this side, as it's a bit more rocky terrain. Nothing difficult for your dogs. None of ours had any problems. Poppy just loved it. She was just bouncing about all over the place. And Cody and River just plodded along as they always do. This was by far the best part of the day, the second ascent. The terrain was so much better and so much more enjoyable. It also helps when you've got much more of an occasional track under your feet. Once again, the hill rewards you with another cairn, which you might mistake for the summit, especially again the misty day, but you'd be absolutely wrong. The summit is actually further along, and you will see it quite clearly when Cody kind of turns around with the camera. That's it there, just off in the distance. It's not actually as far as it looks, as you'll see in the video footage. Being able to navigate, know where you are, is a big thing for me, as I have seen other people posing for photos on what they thought was the summit, and in actual fact they'd walked right past the summit and had to go back and get their pictures taken on the actual summit themselves. It's easily done in the hills, especially if you're not exactly sure what you're doing and you're simply following a phone app or someone else's route. I'd always recommend learning some navigation skills, especially on, it sounds old fashioned now, a paper map, which can never go wrong, especially having a map and a compass. I always also have a GPS just as a backup. You can't go wrong if you've got all three. I also recommend planning your own routes, but comparing them to things like Walk Highlands as well, as the route you're following might not be the best for you, especially the time of year you're doing them. We got really lucky with our second summit, as the weather had totally changed and the mist cleared off the top, so we got some incredible views. Unfortunately, the photos do not do the views any justice. It just was amazing being up there. As for the descent off the summit, the ground is quite boggy at times and it's very soft underfoot. This is why I'd recommend going up the way we did and coming down this way, as the ground's much more soft as you're going down. Also, on a really wet day, this would just be an absolute bog fest and it'd be horrible to ascend. As you can see, the terrain is really nice and gradual. Apart from kind of avoiding some of the boggy areas, it's actually quite nice to descend on it, especially if you've got sore knees. The soft ground's much easier for you. As you descend, you will come across another deer fence. All you need to do is just head towards the fence and then push further down towards the right into the centre of the valley where the river is, and you will eventually come across a similar gate that you crossed over on the first Munro. After the deer fence, you get quite a nice little track that takes you all the way down past the river. You are going to have to do a river crossing at some point. I'd personally keep on going as low as you can. If you do it higher up, the sides of the river are much more steep and I don't think there's a track on the other side. So just follow this all the way down and you'll find a better place to cross. There is another small fence to cross. There's a stile there, but your dog's not going to get across it. There is a part of the fence that's a bit more broken and lowered, which the dogs can just easily get across with some help. If you are going to do these Munros in much wetter conditions, be aware the river will swell quite a lot, and there are points that you'll see in the footage that you can clearly see how wide the riverbed is. It's much drier than we did it. It's another good reason why we did the Munros the way we did. I'd rather have wet feet at the end of the trip than at the start of the trip. Although we didn't get wet feet at all, because we managed to find a good crossing point. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please subscribe and leave a comment. We appreciate any of your feedback, and please like and share the videos. And we'll see you on our next adventure.